Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Straight cash, homie. Straight cash, homie.
You like that on 3, 1, 2, 3. You like it?
There he is, the star of Netflix and the NFL's new docuseries this offseason, The Summer Quarterback, starring Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. We actually talked about that on Mackey and Judd today. If you want our thoughts about what we'd like to see from Kirk, what we're curious about, but Kirk, all access, baby. All you can eat.
Yep. Kirk on the plane, hopefully. Kirk with the chains.
We might get, like, Netflix Kirk with the chains access, right? He's mic'd up everywhere, apparently.
Kirk with a steak that has, like, no texture to it whatsoever.
It's a medium well steak that might not actually be
still
a steak.
One of the, and I'm not trying to be a smart ass here, still one of the oddest pieces of meat I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was like some sort of alien meat on his grill. No one really knew what was happening there. This, by the way, is Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl at some point before we die. The show is presented in part by our friends at TCL, now an official partner of the NFL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed, an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system. Ultra-realistic and true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision and booming sound from the dual speakers. Learn more at TCL.com. And a reminder for you guys out there, Judd and I are going to be at the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. So every year, even going back to like our 1500 ESPN radio days, we've done some radio shows, we've done some podcasts out at the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. Score North helps organize the golf show on an annual basis. So Friday, February 24th, so tomorrow as we record this here on a Thursday, and Saturday inside Minneapolis Convention Center Hall B at 2 o'clock Friday, 2 o'clock Saturday, we're going to be doing a little Purple Daily Town Hall Q&A, taking questions, your Viking speculation questions, whatever you want, drinking some adult beverages. Tickets are just $12 to get into the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. And you get like 14 free rounds of golf and all sorts of amazing perks. You can check out MinnesotaGolfShow.com. We'd love to see many of you there. Come hang out with us, whether you're a golf fan or not. We're going to be there. And let us know if you're coming to. Hit us up on Twitter and just or hit us up in the Score North app, the feedback tab. Let us know if you're going to be there so we can prepare ourselves for some speculation. This is going to be a really fun episode here today, gentlemen. AJ in for Declan, who is he made it out of the snowstorm. He's in warmer pastures out in North Carolina. AJ has trudged his way into the studio here. He's been helping us out all week. This is the episode where we put our general manager caps on. We are going to kick everyone out of the Vikings front office. We are sitting in their chairs. We are sitting in the draft and scouting war rooms. We are going to go through the entire offseason on today's episode of Purple Daily. Everything from clearing cap space, cuts, trades, restructures, extensions, free agent signings, and a mock draft simulation toward the end of this episode.
Our jobs are on the line right now, is what you're saying.
I mean, we might actually prove that we can run an NFL franchise here in the next 45 minutes or so. All right? Move over, Kwesi. That's what the people are going to say here once they get done listening to this.
Come on, Rick Spielman, move over. Wait, you did already.
Yeah, he did. He's actually doing a pretty good job with his media career now. He's slinging takes everywhere.
Those are easy.
Well, yeah,
we've proven. Media careers are easy.
Throw stuff out there, and it doesn't matter if you're wrong 75% of the time, as we have shown.
Exactly.
So here's kind of the landscape. We're going to start with just a snip of the current roster because the Vikings are $24 million over the cap. It's the third worst cap situation in the NFL behind New Orleans and Tampa. So they have a lot of work to do just to get under the cap in the next 3 weeks or so. And then not only that, I think we're going to want to clear enough space because they won 13 games last year. They're not rebuilding. So they'd like to add some pieces to help them. I don't know if they're going to win 13 games again, but they want to compete at a high level next season. So there's a whole cleanup with the current guys. Once we do that, we'll get into the free agent signings. We have some ideas on who they could potentially look to target. And then a mock draft simulation. By the end of it, we should have a revamped Vikings roster within the salary cap parameter. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's just start here. I think there's like 10 to 12 players we need to focus on internally here. Guys that are under contract, but guys that may need their contracts to be snipped, cut entirely, traded, restructured, et cetera, et cetera. Can I just throw out 3 easy ones right away? If you guys disagree and push back, that's what this war room is about. Let's get to the easy things first so we can get to the harder things and spend more time on them. I think Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, CJ Ham are all 3 just easy cuts. You can save $9.5 by cutting Eric Kendricks, $5 million by cutting Jordan Hicks, and $3 million by cutting a fullback that you barely used last year.
Yep. Yes. Not
no
even
pushback.
Zero pushback.
Don't be shy, AJ. If you want to push back on CJ Ham, I know he's your guy.
I am a huge
He's
fan
got a
of the
family.
purple bus, but I think for the sake of the franchise, we can move on.
Well, and I would, just to be clear, I would love CJ Ham to be with this team post-playing career in some type of role. I think it'd be great. But as far as a player, no, this is not difficult. Like these are tough decisions. This cannot be about who we like. This has to be about who we need and who we don't need.
Yeah. What role do you want CJ Ham to like an assistant coach? Or
no,
like
you know
public
what?
relations?
I'm thinking this. Okay, if he wants to coach, that's awesome. But like I'm thinking like a community liaison or a player relations guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Who helps young guys, like because he's a really really smart dude. He could come in and help the draft picks manage their salary money for the first year. Like there are a ton of things. Perhaps he could be the radio analyst. I don't know. But yes, I'm cutting him with you.
So you've cut Pete Bursich as well here too? Is that what I'm doing?
Pete's going to get tired of this.
He's getting up there in age, isn't he?
Now, Ben could take over, I guess, technically. But Ben's pretty big right now. So, I mean, heck, he's on Channel 5 each weekday on
Twin Cities Live. You guys, he's in our building. You run into him in the building.
So CJ Ham could be good.
Yeah. Okay, so you've at least created a soft landing spot for CJ Ham.
Yep.
So that's nice of you.
Kendricks is gone. Hicks is gone. I'm with you on this.
Yeah, those guys are they're aging. They're over 30 years old. Okay, so that's, by the way, that'll save you by just cutting those 3 guys pre-June 1st designation. That gets you from the Vikings are $24 million over the cap. Now we're only $7 million over the cap.
Okay.
So we're making progress here, okay? Let's go to a couple harder ones here.
Yep.
Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin has one of the highest cap hits on the team. You could, this is why I keep pushing the trade angle, because I think there's a couple teams out there that are ready to contend or just need that final piece as perceived. Buffalo, Miami, they need running backs. If you traded Dalvin Cook for whatever you could get pre-June 1st, you could save $8 million to the salary cap.
Dalvin Cook, in my world, is gone, period. If you can trade him for a draft pick, awesome.
Yep.
If you can't, okay. The 2 guys so Phil, I'll take your list of Kendricks, Hicks, and Ham and expand it. Dalvin Cook and Zadarius Smith, when you look at the savings, have no place on my team. So I'm either trading them or releasing them.
Okay. And we'll get to Zadarius here.
Yep.
Because I have an idea on him too.
So Cook, I'm fine with. If you can get a pick for him, if you can get a day 3 pick, great. If you can't, I'm not going to bring back a guy who plays a position that I can replace at that. Like the savings is too much for me to pass up on. So,
Dalvin's a little tricky because if you cut him, you would actually be eating a lot more dead money than you'd be saving. You'd be eating. So his salary cap number is $14 million for next year. If you cut him, let's say in the next few weeks, you'd still have to eat $8.2 million to the cap, and you'd save $6 million. So you'd have to swallow hard on that. If you traded him, you would save $8 million and eat only $6 million.
Yep. Well,
so a day 3 pick. I know that the PFF simulator it green lights a 3rd round pick for Dalvin, but in the real world, I think you're probably right. It would be more like a day 3 pick. So what if we said a late 4th rounder from Buffalo? Buffalo has a late 4th rounder. It'd be a day 3 pick. And 4th rounders are day 3, right? Day 1 is 1st round, day 2 is 2nd and 3rd, and then 4th through 7th. So if we could say, hey, Buffalo, you just need one extra piece to get over that hump. Your running game sucks. Dalvin Cook can help you out.
Yep.
You give us a late 4th rounder. We, as the Vikings, save $8 million to the cap.
Yep.
Everyone's happy.
Now, if I can interject here, I was doing some research last night and found a small loophole which will take care of Dalvin and perhaps a receiver who we'll get to. Teams are allowed to designate up to 2 players as post-June 1st cuts, even if they are released before June.
Yes.
Now, so if we do that with Dalvin, it's $9 million savings, 5.1 dead. So I can flip it. So if I can't trade him,
yep,
I can at least flip that.
That's about what the trade savings would be, too.
Yep, and making him a post-June 1st. I'm just not... The issue is I'm not going to pay him, and I don't think he'll take a huge pay cut.
Yeah, I agree on the pay cut. So let's just for the sake of this, because I feel very strongly that some team would give you something of value, like not a second round pick or anything, but let's just say a late 4th rounder from Buffalo, and we'll pencil that in here, and you save $8 million to the cap.
Perfect.
So that gets us under the cap. We are now under the salary cap. Congratulations, everyone. All right, we've done our work. Nothing else to do here.
Yeah, no, that's not true. We're not done yet. We're not done hacking and whacking.
Let's go to the receiver that you mentioned, Adam Thielen. There's a few different options here. There are reports, and Adam himself has said this, that the team and I'm assuming his agent, Blake Barrett's, are working on something. As of right now, Thielen has the 2nd highest cap hit on the team, just under $20 million. And we've all sort of seen him as a shell of himself. If you were to cut him pre-June 1st, I'm going to submit this here into the over the cap calculator, you would still be on the hook for $13.5 million.
Correct.
You'd only save 6.5.
Yep.
You would also, well, let me see. I don't know. Actually, next year, I'd have to see for next year. But it would be a real swallow hard problem for you. To your point, if you were to do a post-June 1st designated cut, that number flips. You would be on the hook for 6.5, and you would save $13.5 million to the salary cap.
Yes.
Another option would be, if we don't think there's trade value there, you could just negotiate a pay cut. You could say, hey man, listen, we all know that your value has declined. Right. What if you just said straight up, we need to save like $6 or $7 million to the cap on your contract. So let's do it. If you want to be a Viking for life, let's just take less money. That would be another option too.
I'm just to be clear here, I'm not going to pay him. His cap hit to me can't be more than, let's say, 6 in 2023.
Okay.
So like, but I mean, so we are talking about a colossal hack to the ego as well for a guy that's been here a long time, and at least from the way he talked at the Super Bowl, still thinks that he can be a clear-cut number 2 and a really important player. So I think I think my suggestion of, hey dude, that's great, but here's a piece of paper with a figure on it, and we're not going to talk about it. Like you're either going to say yes or no. I just got the impression, and I might be wrong, but from what he said in his various Super Bowl appearances, that I don't know that his ego could take that. Because I'm with you. If he'll come down to where I feel like he could be a 3 or a 4, I'll bring him back.
Yeah.
But as a 2, and like if there's pride there and a feeling of, no, I could still beat the guy that I was with Diggs, I just don't have time for that because I don't think it's true.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, he's a number 3 receiver. You know, Doogie and Eric Eager have both brought up Kansas City, that if Kansas City needs a 3rd receiver, you know, with some of their pieces kind of floating around here, that, yeah, could Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes leverage Adam Thielen in the red zone on 3rd down? Yeah, that would be absolutely. But he would then be going to Kansas City on like a really small contract, right? So here's a dumb question for you. If you do a post-June 1st designation, which that seems to be the most prudent thing to do here for the Vikings cap situation, and you could easily, like, you could do a post-June 1st designation on him, which would free you up with more flexibility later in the summer to address, like, the Danielle Hunter contract if you had to put money onto the 2023 books to facilitate a Hunter contract or something. If you say goodbye to Thielen post-June 1st designation, but you do it early, like you're saying, you don't get access to those cap savings for March free agency, right? Or could you come to an agreement with a free agent and it's all sort of semantics?
And then it spreads out. You know what? I did the research on this last night, and it is, not surprisingly, incredibly confusing because what it does is it spreads the hits out if you do it post June 1st over 2 years instead of accelerating it onto
Correct.
one. But
yeah,
I
so,
think
so a post June 1st would also put you on the hook for $7 million in cap for.
correct.
You could rip the Band-Aid off now.
Yes.
Have nothing on your books. If you cut him pre-June 1st, you would have nothing on your books for 2024. But you would have like only $6 million compared to $13 million in savings for this year. So
if you ever were
either
willing
way,
to,
it's tough.
if you ever were willing to accept the fact that you were just going to cause yourself some immediate pain for the greater good of the future, you would do what you just said, which is you look at Dalvin and Thielen and say, you know what? We're going to take the pain in 2023. It will probably hurt us, but it will be done then.
Yeah.
It's not going to kick the can. I mean, that's what if we're truly stepping into Brzezinski and Kwesi's shoes here, what we're dealing with is when do we want to solve their problems?
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's just, I think let's do a post June 1st to give us some flexibility. So we'll still be on the hook for like 7 next year. But if we do a post June 1st, we save $13.5 million for this year's cap. And that would give us the ability to maybe, hey, Daniil, we've got some wiggle room here now. We'll get to Daniil in a second here. So we've cut Kendricks, cut Hicks, cut Ham, traded Cook. We've cut Thielen post June 1st designation. Now we get to Kirk Cousins. 3 options for you guys, okay? We're sitting in here in the Vikings lavish offices talking about the current franchise quarterback. You could trade him. Now, he would have to greenlight any trade because he has a full no trade clause. San Francisco, we've done episodes on just the obvious fit there. That team is ready to win, just like the Vikings were 5 years ago. You put a competent quarterback in the mix with a competent offensive-minded coach, and maybe he's the final piece that he wasn't 5 years ago with the Vikings. If you traded him, you would save $17.5 million on his $36 million cap hit. So you would save a lot of money for this year, but you wouldn't have a quarterback, obviously.
Right.
You could extend him, and the savings are kind of tricky because it depends on just what the extension looks like. Are there more void years attached to it? Does he fight to want to make 40 or 45 million? So we don't know, but you could, with an extension, you could easily relieve like $15 million in cap space for this year.
Yep.
We'll say give or take.
Yep.
But then you'd be pushing again more cap money into 2024-25 when he's 36 or 37 years old. You're just doing the same thing you've been doing for 3 or 4 years. And next year, you're going to have to make the same decision. So you're kicking the can down the road. Mm-hmm. I present to you a third option that we haven't talked about that I think actually makes the most sense with Kirk Cousins. And it would finally put the gears in motion for what's going to happen life after Cousins. You could convert so he has a $20 million roster bonus that's set to kick in sometime in like 3 weeks. That if he's on the roster, and they do this strategically, right? If he's on the roster when the league year hits, boom, he gets this bonus and it's stuck on your cap. You could convert his $20 million roster bonus to a signing bonus, which would spread that money out over 2023 and the 2 void years. We're getting in the weeds here, but the 2 void years that are also tacked onto his contract. So his cap hit this year would go from $36 million down to $23 million. So you'd save $13 million to this year's cap. It would add some dead money to his already void year dead money 2024-25 seasons. You'd have to pay him 13 in dead, not pay him. Your books would have 13 million in dead money when he's not here anymore in 24 and in 25. But that would only be like 5% of the projected salary cap. So you'd lower your cap hit by 13 million for this year. He would no longer be under contract after 2023. So you'd move on to life after Kirk Cousins. And you would pay a 5% void year penalty basically in 24 and 25 for the way that you maneuvered his contract. Your thoughts?
Oh, boy. All right, so then I am kicking. So I'm kicking some more of this down the road, just like I am with.
But there's already
Thielen
some of it kicked down the road already.
Yeah.
So you're already,
And Cook. God, would I love to rip the Band-Aid off the entire thing, but they won't do it.
You could also just do nothing, by the way. You could just write out his
but I'm still trying to get more
cap hit.
Right, but I'm still trying to but I'm trying to free up more room for my immediate gain as well. I mean, you could. Now, it would be interesting what the Cousins camp would say about that, because I'm sure they're going to be pursuing an extension, which is, again, doable. The question becomes, do you just do another 1-year extension through 2024 and sort of revisit this entire thing in a year when it might be completely different? But yeah, I mean, I think that there is going to be some way that they are going to bring the cap hit down. Now, I personally think they're going to extend him by a year. That's a total guess. But your philosophy is a solid one if they have the cojones to go into the last year of Kirk's contract.
And but then that triggers the whole cycle of like, if they decide that that's what's going to happen. So mechanically, I think they can redo this restructure without even talking to him.
Yeah, that's the question.
Or maybe that's only for base. I'd have to see. But like, you could. I think you could do a restructure here without even talking.
And he'd probably take it. But the reality is, if I was personally in charge, I would do nothing with it. I would just eat this and be done with it.
We could, but that's the decision we have to make here, right?
Right.
I mean, we could do that, but we wouldn't have any money coming our way for free agency.
Well, I can free up a little bit more, but I mean, I would rather, if I was with me in charge in the room, I would rather take on the last year of this contract and just be done with it.
And I agree. So let's do a compromise. Let's do the Mackey plan here. Let's have his contract with the Vikings as the starting quarterback come to an end after 2023.
Okay.
But let's also give ourselves some relief here. Let's get ourselves $13 million in relief to do the best we can with his last year. And we'll have to swallow hard a little bit. We've already put some of his money into these years anyways. So let's just do a restructure of that roster bonus.
Okay.
Does that work for you guys?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So we're saving $13 million more. So that means right now, look at us. We're up to let's see here, 38.5 million. So we now have we're now 14 million under, not including the 13.5 post June 1st that we leveraged on Thielen. We'll come back to that. Harrison Smith, a few options. You could restructure, which would be converting part of his base salary into a signing bonus, and you could actually save $9 million to the cap in 2023. But then his cap hits would be $23 million in each of 2024 and 25 when he's 35 and 36 years old. Oof. You could trade or cut him post June 1st, and you'd save $15 million to this year's cap.
Right.
And you'd be out from underneath his age 35 and 36 contracts. Pre-June 1st cut, you'd only save like $7 million. You could also just keep him. I'm kind of leaning toward, I want him in the Flores defense. I don't think you can just get rid of all of your veteran defenders.
I want him to restructure. I want him to take I want him to take a pay cut. Thielen, I will walk away from in a heartbeat. I want Harrison Smith. I want to fight this fight. I want him to take a pay cut. I want him to bring his contract down. No, then you know what? That's why we get paid the big bucks. That's why this job pays us big. Thielen, the second he balks, he's gone. I kick him out of the building. I take away his key, and that's it for him.
Harrison's a better player than Thielen.
Harrison Smith, I actually do want. But
you want him, but you're gonna stare him down on the train tracks?
Yeah, hell yeah! Are you kidding? This is the new Vikings.
Sounds like you don't really want him.
I want him. I want him on my terms. I want Thielen completely on my terms. I want Thielen to say thank you for keeping me. Harrison Smith won't say that. So how can we get him, or can we get him to take a salary cut?
Well, I mean, okay. So I think it's really presumptuous for us in this exercise to say, okay, all right, Harrison. So he's due $15 million in base. And his cap hit is $19 million. It's really presumptuous of us to say, all right, we're going to wave a magic wand and bring your base from 14.5 down to 10 and save $4.5 million.
Do you want to win?
It's easy for us to sit here and do that, but he has full say.
Does he want to win?
Happens.
See, he's the anti-Kirk. I think Kirk would say, "Oh no way, I get paid." I would guilt him. I would say you want to, at your age, actively hurt your team. You want to not win a Super Bowl because that's what you're saying, Harrison. I think I could guilt him pretty good.
Okay. So do you think I'm trusting you here? Again, it's so weird for us to just sit here and say, all right, well, we're gonna keep Harrison Smith and we're gonna save $4 million in cap.
We're in charge. We got to butt heads. We got to butt some heads here.
You almost need like a coin flip of like whether or not he actually accepts it. You know, it's a 50-50. It's either heads, he comes down to your terms, or tails.
You want to win a Super Bowl here, AJ?
I do. I'm saying
you've been in purple
for the sake of the scenario.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, Harrison, you've been in purple since what, 2012 now, 13?
Yeah.
Like, we cultivated you, we drafted you, and now you're telling me you do not want to win.
So we all agree we want to keep, in this room, we want to keep Harrison Smith for at least one more year.
Yeah, I would
like
like
to be great in this system. You need some sort of veteran leadership. We've said goodbye to Kendricks and Hicks. Okay. I'll trust you, Judd. You seem very confident. You're the guy that we're going to send out to go talk to his agent, and we're going to put you down for. Let's put you down for a $4 million savings here.
I think that's very fair.
Okay.
Just going to come back with a black eye and a smile on his face.
You know what? No, he's not going to punch me because I'm going to tell him how to get a Lombardi trophy.
All right, I'm making it official here, so I'm going to put you down here in my little spreadsheet. So we're gonna somehow you're going to negotiate a $4 million savings there.
I think that's very fair.
We trust you. Okay.
$4 million for him is not exactly. It's not like I'm cutting his salary to nothing.
No, he'll still be making $10 million in base salary for God's sakes, right? Okay. Now we get to the edge rushers, the veteran edge rushers. So Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, they're both among the highest paid players on the team in terms of their cap hits. They're both in the top 7 for the Vikings.
Right.
Zadarius is 31 years old, and Danielle is 29 years old. I think you have to keep at least one of these guys to work in Brian Flores' system.
Yep, and I think it's very clear.
Keep Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
Say goodbye to Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, which is a 12.2 immediate savings.
Via cut or trade.
Yes. So and if you want to say that you can get a 6th round pick or something, that's fine. I think a guy who's been hurt for 2 consecutive years and who, like, in the last 10 games of the season had half a sack, I don't care what you do with him. He's just not coming back.
Well,
Hunter is.
Out of curiosity, I was curious, are there contending teams that run 3-4 defenses that need edge rushers? The Jaguars are one of them. The Jaguars had a hard time getting after quarterbacks. They do run a 3-4 defense. And according to the PFF trade simulator, you can get 2 4th-round picks, 2 later 4th-round picks from the Jaguars for Zadarius Smith.
What is wrong with their trade simulator?
Well, he was, even with the injury, he was he had the 5th most pressures of any edge rusher in the league last year.
But he has had 2 years of injury problems and is aging out, and his body is quitting. But anyway, if you can go get the draft picks, do that. I'm just saying I'm not bringing him back. It's too much savings potentially on a guy who I just think is so far past his prime now that you might get 6 good games, but you're not going to get anything close to 17.
Yeah, I hear you. On the trade value
so I'm fine with what you do.
I think he showed that he's over the back injury, which was the biggest thing. And the knee injury wasn't like a ligament issue or like a degenerative problem. It was a contusion.
Yeah, but it stopped him cold in his tracks. That's what actually concerned me.
But a contusion is something that is not relevant once training camp starts. The back would have been the concern, and the back apparently was not a problem for him unless they hid that all season, right?
Well, but the problem is there almost inevitably with a guy like this now at his age will be something else. But anyway, if you can get a 4th-round pick for him, take the 4th-round pick. I just don't want him back.
We're going to take – dude, the Vikings traded – and I get that Yannick Ngakoue was younger. He was 24 years old. But a 2nd-round pick for Ngakoue, we can get 2 4th-round picks for one of the top 7 edge rushers statistically in the NFL.
Again, you know what? I'll deal with Hitman. You deal with this trade.
Okay. So now we go from we were 18 million before. Now we're saving 12. So now we're up to 30 million in savings, plus the 13.5 post June 1st Adam Thielen. Now we're making our way here. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing.
And we'll get to the free agency and the draft here too. Okay, Danielle Hunter. So it has to be an extension. Because his base is only $5 million. He's going to say the cap and the base are 2 different things. The cap is how you've shuffled money around your books. Yes. The base is what does he make. He only cares about one of those things, the base. He's going to say, well, I had a nice little bounce back season. I showed I'm healthy. I'm in my prime. I ain't playing for $5 million. Mm-hmm. So if we agree that we want to keep him and everyone says, okay, we're going to keep him, it can't just be playing out another year of his contract. It has to be an extension. Mm-hmm. Now, I was looking at some of the other edge rushers. A lot of the contracts get signed when these guys are 24, 25, 26, 27. Well, he's 29. He might only have a couple more years of real high-level play left, or he's going to be 29. So based on the market, here's my proposal.
Okay.
It would be a 3-year contract, maybe a 4-year contract, like a fake 4-year contract.
Yeah, more void years.
Like 3 years, $20 to $25 million a year, which would put him in that sort of top, 5 or 6 highest paid edge rushers with like 2 years of guarantees.
Yeah.
So you'd be guaranteeing like $40 million or something. You're in on this?
Yes. Oh, I'm fine with this. Yeah.
Okay. So it's call it like a 3-year, $75 million, 2 years of large guarantees.
It's potentially a 5-year contract with 2 fake years.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much what Von Miller's contract was.
Yes.
Lee signed. It's like a 6-year deal, but not really. And so his cap hit right now is pretty reasonable considering the production. It's like a $13 million cap hit. This would probably bump his... it would be hard to do this without raising his cap hit, in my opinion.
Yes, it would be.
So you would probably have to go from like 13 to like 19, unless you want to just shove a ton of cap stuff into future years. But this is the beauty of you could tell him, listen, man, we have like 12 players we need to deal with. We will get you an extension, but let us work on Thielen, all these guys. You could do this in the summertime, as long as he's on board and he's not, freaking out, right?
Yes, this won't get done. I don't think this will get done next month.
Yep.
I think you're right. I think it's a springtime thing. And ultimately what I would tell him, of course, hush, hush, very privately, not to go tell Schefter or Rappaport, but I actually would see his cap hit probably replacing Thielen's.
Yes, I agree with that. In fact, I have it just estimated with the contract we just talked about that his cap hit would bump up $6 million. Thielen's, depending on how you do it pre or post June 1st, could either save you 6, which would be exactly matching, or 13, which would help cover it.
Yep.
So we're all in agreement. Trade Za'Darius for a 4th or 2. Extend Danielle Hunter for 2 more guaranteed years to work in Brian Flores' system.
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Look at us right now.
Yeah.
This is
Age,
oh my God.
Football.
I mean, you jump in whenever you want, but yes, I don't want to chase both of them off, and I actually think Daniil's play and statistical output in a year in which he, dare I say, was not featured much, if at all, is more impressive.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's going to have more opportunity to actually get home and generate some sacks. Okay, a couple of really easy ones here. Brian O'Neill restructure. You can just do this without even talking to him. You just convert his 2023 base to a signing bonus, save $10 million there.
Yep, that's going to be done probably by that could be done by the end of this week, actually.
Yep. So now we went from 30 million in cap space down to 24 because of the Danielle Hunter thing. Yep. Now we're back up to 34 million in cap space.
Yep.
TJ Hawkinson extension
and Jefferson.
But the Jefferson one, that money wouldn't really go on the books until like next year.
So we're going to purposely take a little bit of a cap hit on that one so it doesn't all accelerate in 2 years. But yes, it would probably be small. You're correct. It's not going to be huge. But the point is, so like his salary structure won't change for 2 years. But again, to your point, Phil, the cap and the base salary are not the same thing. And so you probably would take a bit of a haircut on 2023 on purpose.
Okay.
Just to spread things, to begin spreading things out.
So, okay. So
and Hawkinson, you're right too.
Let's start with the Hawkinson one and say, so George Kittle a couple years ago signed a 5-year, $75 million contract with an $18 million signing bonus.
Okay.
Kittle is better than Hawkinson, but that was also a couple years ago. So you could still use that as kind of framework for a comp. So I plugged it into the over the cap, and we could do something like that with like, $20 million signing bonus or something, 3 years guaranteed. And you could actually save about $2.5 million to this year's number. You could take this year's number from 9 down to like 6.5 or 7.
I think that's accurate.
And then you shove more money to he's only 25 years old. So you
do
can
that. Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what they'll do.
So that's another 2.5 right there. So that brings us up to 36.5. Justin Jefferson, I don't know. Do you want to? It's going to be a huge contract,
right? But
it's not going to. Should we just like add a couple million or something?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Stick 2 more on there.
Okay, so we'll come back down to 34 million in total cap space there, not counting the Thielen deal.
Still cooking.
Yep, we'll fly through. So Dalvin Tomlinson, it sounds like they want to reach an extension with him. If they move the void date back to March 15th, if an extension isn't reached, the Vikings would eat $7.5 million in dead cap this year. Wouldn't they rather just like have that be money that's being paid toward playing him because he's very good?
So the projection that I saw on Spotrac for Dalvin Phil was 3 years, 25.5 million, average 8.5, which I think is actually probably incredibly fair.
So can we just leave that? So his cap number for this year with the void hold is 7.5. Could we just leave it there and say whatever? It's just break even, but he's on the team.
Whatever.
Okay.
Dalvin, whatever.
It's like
hey,
he's
buddy,
on the team, and the cap hits about 7.5 or $8 million.
Chipotle or pizza? What do you want?
So with that, okay, if we do all of this, we go from being $24 million over the cap to about $34 million under the cap, and 13.5 coming from we might even want to move like the Daniil Hunter thing off to the side and the Adam Thielen thing off to the side. So call it between like $35 and $40 million under the cap. It gives us room, depending, to sign 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 starter caliber free agents, not superstars. How about 3? Good. 3 to 4, maybe 5? Does that sound about right?
I'd say probably 3.
3?
Yeah.
We'll go through this here in a second.
Yep.
We pick up 3 additional 4th-round picks with our Dalvin and Za'Darius trades. So now we have a first, a third, 4 fourths, and projected to have a 5th and a comp 5th once the comp picks come out.
Okay.
With that, we would be keeping Dalvin Tomlinson, Daniil Hunter, Harrison Smith as veterans on defense with just different contracts. We'd say goodbye to Za'Darius, Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, Dalvin Cook, CJ Ham. So the open starting positions for us would be RB1, because we said goodbye to Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
WR2, wide receiver 2, because we said goodbye to Adam Thielen. Sorry, I forgot to say Adam Thielen we said goodbye to. We need an edge. We need a center, and we'll get to some of these internals here.
Yep.
2 linebackers and 3 cornerbacks. So
Yep.
Okay. And we have free agency, draft, and internal backups that we could elevate to fill these places.
Correct.
Let me pause there. How do we feel about what we just did?
Oh, I feel fantastic. Are you kidding? I'm across the street at the Vikings Lake bar right now, celebrating intensely because I just wreaked havoc through a roster that had grown old, and that a year ago the Wilfs had said, "I love these guys. We can't get rid of Eric Kendricks. CJ Ham has to stay." And now I have just basically gutted a large portion of a lot of cash that was spent, in my opinion, not wisely, probably.
Do you, by the way,
I feel really good.
Programming note, what are you recording with Chip today?
Yeah, around noon, but I can back him up.
Can you back him up a little bit? I feel like we have 2 options here. We could either stop now and do a part 2 at some point. I think we should just keep going.
Well,
and
you tell me.
Bump Chip. I think we should tell Chip we need another 15 minutes if that's cool with him.
Oh, that's absolutely fine with Chip, I'm sure of it.
On top of the 10, we tell him like 12, 15 so we can carve out a good like 20, 25 here.
Can I suggest a quick fix here? As far as an internal free agent for one of the positions that you talked about that was now open with Dalvin Cook being gone. RB1. I've been doing some sniffing around. I don't think Alexander Madison is going to get as much as I thought. Like, I thought that there might be a team that would pay him, but the position is so, I mean, there's such a glut of players.
Yeah.
A projection, the Spotrac, if this is correct, projection or in the ballpark for Alexander Madison's next contract is a 1 year, $2.2 million deal, which would rank 30th among backs, which, by the way, I would do for him.
So you have Madison and Ty Chandler basically.
Yes.
Right? There's other things you could do externally too. Well, so whether it's Madison, but there's also, dude, there's so many guys out there that Samaje Perine is 27 years old. I'm just looking through here. Let me go based on receiving yards from last year because I'm interested in a third down guy too. Samaje Perine, Devin Singletary, Kareem Hunt is a free agent. Jeff Wilson is a free agent.
Yeah, that's a position. My point is, I thought that Madison would just cost more. But yes, it is. This is a very, in my opinion, simple position to find an inexpensive replacement at.
So whether it's like Madison or one of the guys I just mentioned, you're going to get a guy like that for a couple $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the, okay.
Yes.
Before we dive further into the internal, external free agents here, a shout out to our friends at Livia, helping Purple Daily listeners lose weight the last 18 months. A lot of satisfied customers.
That's right, Phil. And today's show, it's all about speculation. It's reckless, right? Like, what are the Vikings going to do? Do you keep this player? How does that player work? I am personally trying to jettison a bunch of players. But you know one thing I'm sure about? I'm sure about the fact that Livia Weight Control Centers works, because the most important thing I said there is Livia Weight Control Centers. It's not a diet. It's not a quick fix. It's a plan that's going to help you lose weight. I lost 40 pounds now, almost 2 years ago. But here's the best part. They're going to, with their help, they're going to help you get on a course to keep that weight off. And that's the most important thing. So it's weight control. Their dietitians do an outstanding job. Join today. And I'm going to tell you right now, do you get a deal? 8 weeks free. You talk about a good free agent deal. You're a free agent trying to lose weight. Imagine 8 weeks for free. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com. Livia, Livea.com. That is your free agent ticket to a new you and weight loss.
And a shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. If you are a business owner out there and you are looking for just a better guiding hand from your insurance company, Federated has over 100 years of experience in doing just that. Check them out. You can find a list of industries that Federated specializes in. You can find all sorts of tools and resources and read about the history of this great company. Again, they're sort of one of us, based in Owatonna, Minnesota. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Okay. Internal free agents. So again, we don't have to get super specific with contracts here. Just know that we have room for like between 3 and 5 solid starters.
Yep.
Unless you start to get into like the 10, 15, $20 million a year average annual value guys, the Vikings probably aren't shopping in that bin when it comes to free agency. But let's start with, we need a starting center. And so Garrett Bradbury, he's projected PFF 3 years, $6.5 million per year. He's still fairly young. There are 2 other centers. He's the 3rd highest ranked free agent center. Is it Ethan Pocic with the Browns is the top ranked center, and then Connor McGovern, who's about 2 years older. He's almost 30 years old. Bradbury is yet to turn 28. So Bradbury makes me nervous because he's only had 1 good year and he spent the last month injured.
And it was a contract year.
But I think they would probably lean toward, hey, let's keep some continuity here. He had a good season.
Yeah.
He was a top 10 center according to PFF.
If it's 6, I can swallow that.
Okay.
Like around 6, I can swallow. I don't love it, but yes, it's that's not it. Now, if somebody else comes along and tries to outbid me, they're going to win. But yes, if it is what you said as the PFF projection, I can handle that one.
I'm not going to fight you. I think he's back, and it's not something that's going to cripple your franchise, but they have so many things to deal with. If they can just say, hey, you want to come back? We want you back. Are you good with 6? Okay, you're healthy enough. Okay.
Unless there's a plan.
Probably draft a center too.
That's what I was going to say. Unless there is a plan to find a way to draft John Michael Schmitz, I think this is probably the next option.
Yep. And we have to go through free agency before we go through the draft because we're doing this along the same timeline.
Yep.
So Bradbury's back. All right, I'm going to throw a few other names at you. You already kind of talked about one of them. Oh, Greg Joseph. We need to carve $1 million or $2 million for Greg Joseph or a kicker that replaces him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. Just kicker.
Duke Shelley, Irv Smith Jr., Patrick Peterson, Alex Madison. Internal guys that are free agents.
Duke Shelley, I want back, and I'm guessing I can get him back at a very, very reasonable price.
$2-3 million, couple million,
if that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably a 2-year contract.
We shouldn't buy totally in. Like we're drinking some Duke Shelley Kool-Aid here, but the guy was available for a reason.
If somebody pursues him again, I'm out. But I think that he's a guy, like, he played well, but it was a very specific time period on a very bad defense. So, like, I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams that are now like, oh, Duke Shelley, we saw 17 great games. So I think that one's cut and dry. I don't think that's a hard one.
So he comes back, but he might be more of a depth guy because I think we both have our eyes set on something bigger in free agency than Duke Shelley.
Patrick Peterson's gone.
I agree.
I'm not bringing him back, especially not with what I'm about to do. I'm about to play man. Oh, no.
Yep.
I
like your Madison thing. His yards per carry have been down the last couple of years, but let's just say Madison or someone like Madison, you're going to earmark like a couple million dollars
like the kicker,
a year.
Right?
Yep,
it's sort of
$2-3 million. Someone that can play, who can carry the ball 150 times. I think they like Ty Chandler, and he obviously had a couple good years in college. So we'll say maybe it's Alex Madison, Ty Chandler for next season. Because Madison's pretty young. He's like 25 years old, something like that. Okay.
Wear and tear is small, too, on him.
Yeah. All right, so we have room. I would say we have room with the Bradbury contract and Shelley. We're not going to get super specific with these contracts because it totally depends on how you move the money around and signing bonuses and stuff. But let's say we have room for at least 2 or 3 starting caliber players in free agency here.
Okay.
Let's start with cornerback. Couple names that are interesting. You've thrown out Byron Murphy Jr.
Yep.
As a 25-year-old free agent. According to PFF, he's coming from the Cardinals.
Yeah, what's their projection?
3 years, $9 million a year on a contract.
That's about what I've got from Spotrac, too.
Okay.
Yes.
He has a lot of slot experience. He hasn't quite lived up to expectations of being a former second-round pick. He's just been kind of a slightly above average cornerback. The name that really stands out to me that might make a lot of sense now that Brian Flores is here is Cameron Sutton, 28 years old. So he's a little on the old, but he definitely still has another year or two left of cornerback prime.
Yep.
He was in Pittsburgh the last few years. Flores saw him up close and personal in Pittsburgh last season. He plays about 20% of his snaps in the slot. He's also an outside, versatile cornerback. And his grades are higher and better than Byron Murphy Jr.'s. Contract about the same. 3 years, $8-9 million a year.
Okay, question for you. Would you invest in or attempt to invest in both those players? Because Byron Murphy Jr. could play the slot. Look, I can't tell you. I will harp on this till the day
I'm not signing Duke Shelley then. I'm saying goodbye to Duke Shelley if that's
till the day I'm in the ground. I will harp on this. Do not overlook the nickel corner. It is so important.
Yeah.
And the Vikings were bad there. Shannon Sullivan was not good. And it just feels like we're still, and it's weird because passing is so important. It's such a huge part of the game. It feels like we remain stuck with some teams where they're like, oh, I can get by with that. And ever since we saw Antoine Winfield basically perfect that position, like it is a craftsman's position. It's a hybrid linebacker corner. So I'm just throwing it out there. Would you consider trying to solve that? And now if you do that, you do have to find a corner still, but you've got 2 of the most important places locked down. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I think with what Brian Flores is going to do, having corners who can basically hold their ground is going to become absolutely paramount to your success.
Okay, so what if you're 5? Because you usually have 5 cornerbacks, right? That's kind of usually what you for depth purposes. What if we didn't sign Duke Shelley?
Okay.
Sorry, Duke. And instead, I don't know if you can make a play for, but that's the thing. Is it unrealistic to suggest that you could sign both Byron Murphy Jr. and Cam Sutton for like $8-9 million a year? When you also already have Cam Dantzler, Andrew Booth Jr., and a Caleb Evans. A Caleb Evans who you traded up for in the draft. Andrew Booth Jr., who you like. You know, so if you had 2 guys who were like 25, 26, and then those 3. I love what you're thinking here, but there's other things you need.
Well, and corners always seem to get more than is projected. So you're probably right, because you'd probably get at least one team that would come in and blow you away on one of those 2 players. So yeah, just say one.
Okay.
You're just for the sake of being realistic.
So let's pick one here. You want? I mean, Cameron Sutton has higher grades.
Sure.
Byron Murphy Jr. is 3 years younger.
Just pick one.
Okay, we're gonna go
Sutton. That's fine.
We're gonna go Sutton just because of the familiarity and the scheme. Look at us! Oh my gosh, this is great.
I'd love both, but
competent starting cornerback.
Probably not real.
And I know people are probably, well, what about, there's a bunch of other guys out there toward the top of the free agent list. Like, I just want to address, like, Jamel Dean, for instance. He's going to get $17 to $20 million a year.
I'd be shocked.
The Vikings aren't swimming in that pool. There's no chance. All right. We said goodbye to Zadarius Smith. I do think there's a chance. So Danielle Hunter's back. I do think there's a chance Patrick Jones' role could increase. There's some upside there. But you probably do need another edge outside linebacker type that can rush the passer, because really you were really thin in that department last year. One name that I am almost guaranteeing they sit down and have a conversation with is Kyle Van Noy, who played for the Chargers last year. He's projected to only have a 2-year, $3 million per year contract, so very reasonable. He is 32 years old, so he wouldn't be like a long-term fix. He'd just be like a 1-year plug-and-play guy as you draft, his replacement.
Right.
He won 2 Super Bowls in New England with Brian Flores, then followed Flores to Miami in 2020. He can play both edge rusher and off-ball linebacker. He can do anything in this scheme. More of a run stopper than an electric pass rusher at this point, but he's still playing at a pretty high level, being 32 years old, and he's cheap.
Have to stop the run, too.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, they didn't do well in 2022. Yeah. If assuming that there is enough gas left in the tank for Flores' liking, yeah, give him to the Vikings cheap.
The other guy I was thinking of is Andrew Van Ginkel, 5th-round pick out of Wisconsin, 27 years old. He's from Iowa, family in the Midwest, played 3 years under Flores in Miami. That could be another one, run stopper kind of guy.
He might get paid a little bit more, though, because of age.
Agreed.
I like the older Flores familiarity guy who might just take a short-term contract and say, at least it's a system I've played in a lot before and know really well.
So this is kind of rough math, but like Bradbury at 6.5, and again, some of this depends on where you're going to put this money, in the future, signing bonuses. But if we go like 9 for Cam Sutton, 6.5, that gets us to 15. Kyle Van Noy 3, we're up to like 18. Running back brings us over 20. We still have room for a fairly big splash here, like a $10 to $15 million splash. Somewhere in that ballpark. Could I talk you into a 26-year-old run-stopping stud linebacker named David Long, who played in this system under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee? 3-4 Bill Belichick system, 8th best overall linebacker in the NFL, 5'11", 225, a fast 3-4 linebacker.
Inside linebacker?
Inside linebacker. We don't know if Brian Asamoah is good, and they don't have we're literally sitting here saying goodbye Hicks, goodbye Kendricks. We don't know if Brian Asamoah is good, and the draft hasn't happened yet. It would be $14 million a year.
No, can't.
But who are your linebackers?
Can't talk.
We just cut both linebackers.
I'll develop linebackers. I'm spending that on different positions. I'm spending that money on different positions. I can't do it. I can't do it for a 3-4 inside linebacker. Now, if you said edge guy, I could do it. If you said he could rush the passer, I could do it. I don't think I can do it for an inside guy. I just need you to be competent in there and not slow as a old man, which unfortunately Kendricks and Hicks both were my age basically last year.
Well, we could look at some of the expensive edge guys. I mean, there are guys.
Yeah, give me a 3-4 edge guy that can cut, that can play opposite Hunter, and I can pull the trigger on that. But I mean, that might be too low for that position. I don't know, man. Inside linebacker 3-4. I just need you to be halfway decent.
Some of these guys, like the San Francisco guy, is it Amenahu? That's a 4-3 defense, right?
Yeah, it's
Jacksonville runs a 3-4, and Arden Key is a free agent. He was the 31st ranked edge rusher. This would be like a 2-year, sort of $10 million per year contract. You could bring him and Kyle Van Noy becomes like a depth guy, and then Arden Key comes in. You could do it that way.
I literally think I can. If Brian Flores is as good as we think, and conversely, probably more importantly, Ed Donatel was as bad as we saw, I think that you can coach up and have success inside linebackers. I mean, they literally put 2 guys who were about 50 out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, just getting younger and faster.
Like them whiffing was not oh my God, it was, you can't run.
Yeah. So Arden Key is not, he had 4.5 sacks last season. The free agent edge rusher pool is kind of thin here. So I would actually, I know what you're saying, and I understand not wanting to pump money into linebacker here, but I'd rather go get a stud run-stopping 26-year-old linebacker when I don't have. We keep talking about Asamoah like he's a sure thing. Yep. He's not at all.
Okay. Go inside then. Go defensive line. Is there a big-time free agent, or is there a really good free agent available up front if I don't bring Tomlinson back?
Wow.
Wow.
You're just Draymond Jones is available,
but
he's
not. In my opinion, which is inside linebacker. Like there's just
but you need, at some point you need someone to play. So by the way, Dalvin, you said if we don't bring Dalvin Tomlinson back, he's the 3rd highest ranked potential free agent interior defensive lineman. Almost anybody else that you would bring in. And I should say that there's a good chance that his contract will cost more than we slotted.
That's true.
And so Oh, am I still on the screen, by the way? My screen just went
I can
bonkers.
hear you just fine. You're frozen, but you sound absolutely fine.
Okay.
So
I think my camera just went kaput.
Don't stop now.
So I guess we're kind of at an impasse. We don't know what to do with like the $10 million chunk of money that
this is
just
what's
sitting
real.
here.
Things just got real.
Yeah. I'm going to do this audio only for the rest of the show here.
It's a pretty good screen grab.
So you are vetoing my David Long idea. Same system, dominant run
let's
stopper,
let AJ break
5'11".
the tie, okay? Let's let it's not fair. He's on the show. Break the tie. I won't be mad. I'll be mildly pissed off at you, but break the tie.
I'm going to go David Long.
Okay.
You're going David Long?
I'm going David Long.
Okay.
I know he's a linebacker.
Then I will adhere to it.
I know. Okay.
No,
so you're okay with the linebacker? Okay.
Yeah. I the way that you kind of structured it and like your vision with it, I think it works out. Like as much as you're going to commit to that inside linebacker position.
It's a good screen grab. Just leave the screen grab. You look good.
Yeah, just leave it.
It's not like super stupid. Your eyes are down, so it's not like weird. You're glancing down at like a notepad.
The Twitter trolls are gonna have a field day with that screenshot, though.
I don't know.
All right, we're gonna fly through a mock draft simulation here because we've basically just here's what we've done. We've signed in free agency. We've signed Garrett Bradbury back. We signed Duke Shelley back. We signed Alex Madison back. External free agents: Cameron Sutton, Kyle Van Noy, and David Long, and Dalvin Tomlinson. All welcome to the Minnesota Vikings. Now we're entering the draft where we still need a number 2 wide receiver. We probably still need a future edge rusher, like a young edge rusher.
Okay.
Maybe a young linebacker, quarterback of the future. Absolutely, we need, right?
Okay.
So here's what I have done here on behalf of us, and we can let's go full screen. I'll go for the YouTube audience here.
All right.
Okay. I have already plugged in the 4th round pick trades that we made for Dalvin Cook and Za'Darius Smith. So this is a 4-round mock. We'll go lightning fast here. We'll go kind of slow early in the first round, and we'll do this all within about 5 minutes so you can get to Chip here, Judd.
Okay.
But we're going to start the draft. I think we should be, because remember, what we did was we restructured Kirk, so this will be the last year of Kirk.
Uh-huh.
I think we should be on the hunt for a first-round quarterback. We have plenty of depth. We've got 3rd, 4 4ths, a couple of 5ths. We can draft players later.
Okay, let's see what
They
happens.
can fill positions. Let's just see how this plays out and see if any quarterbacks start to fall, okay? All right, Jalen Carter to the Bears. Bryce Young to the Texans. Mm-hmm. Ooh, cornerback off the board. Christian Gonzalez to the Cardinals. Tyree Will. Okay, interesting. Okay, we have chaos here. Wow. Will Anderson Jr. to the Seahawks. So only one quarterback in the first 5 picks so far. This is actually shaping up really well for us to move up.
Detroit's got to grab one, don't they?
What is happening?
Well, Detroit has to grab a quarterback here. I mean, my God.
They grabbed Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU. Will Levis, second quarterback off the board to the Raiders. Okay. Falcons take Anthony Richardson. I'm going to pause this. CJ Stroud is still on the board right now.
Okay.
Should we facilitate a trade? They might not even do it here. If the Panthers are planning on taking him, then they might not even do this with us. But should we just take a shot in the dark? Can we trade up for CJ Stroud, or do you guys want to veto that ambitious decision?
I think if it shook out like it did just now, I think there's no way they're trading this pick. I think they're looking at that with blinders like a horse.
Salivating.
Well, let's offer and see here, just for fun. Because they'll reject it according to the PFF simulator, if they want this pick, they'll make it. They'll reject the trade. But what will we have to trade? So we're swapping 14. They move 14 back. We give them a future first-round pick. It says that this would be accepted. If we gave them a future first-round pick, we could move up 14 spots for C.J. Stroud.
Okay.
Yeah, send it.
Let's offer the trade and see what happens. If they say no, we'll just... Yeah, they said no.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll resume the draft here. My guess is they'll take C.J. Stroud. Ooh, they didn't. They took Devin Witherspoon, the second cornerback off the board.
What the hell is going on with this mock
this
draft?
is what happens. This is what happens in real drafts, right?
No, because there's a trade by now where somebody just gave up a boatload to get C.J. Stroud.
Okay. Well, should we try to trade with the Eagles now and see what happens?
Yeah, keep trying.
I think so.
We're just reacting as the. I mean, same thing. Future first round pick to move up.
All right.
Offer the trade. The Eagles say yes.
Yeah.
We are on the clock, gentlemen.
And then that's Slam dunk.
CJ Stroud is a Minnesota Viking with the 10th pick. I'm going to go extremely fast through so we can get to the 87th pick. All right, so if the Vikings did this, if they traded up 13 spots to land CJ Stroud and gave up a future first-round pick, or insert quarterback, like one of the top 4 quarterbacks that they like, how would you feel about that?
I feel like that was a lot more ballsy than I expected Kwesi to be. I also think that there would be quickly a call made to San Francisco at that point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Kirk would be happy, and I think that you'd have it sounds like Purdy is out now they were going to do the surgery, and they couldn't do it because he still has swelling. So unless they're sold on Trey Lance, I think that if you did that, I think that might force the hand of a Kirk trade. And I think Kirk would approve a trade to San Francisco.
I could see that.
With an extension, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you guys can still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep, can hear you fine.
Okay. All right, so we're on the clock again here at 87.
Okay.
There's a lot of, this is interesting, and we're not going to be able to break all these players down, but Drew Sanders, that linebacker from Arkansas that people love.
Yep.
If you wanted that linebacker of the future, and again, Asamoah, we don't know if he's good, so I think we should be careful.
Right, but you're in round 3, which is where Asamoah was taken, so I wouldn't assume, I mean, Drew Sanders would fall into the same sort of camp as Asamoah did, right?
Yeah.
I would say you have to take a receiver here.
Wow. So
top
let's
receiver.
Okay. Let's.
It might be Reed.
And we have a bunch of picks coming later here, but receiver. So Jaden Reed from Michigan State. So you'd have a couple Michigan State receivers on your team.
Yep.
Here, should we do it?
I think
I can live with that.
All right, we're taking Jaden Reed from Michigan State. And now we're going to have the 119, the 121, the 127, and the 130 here. So we're on the clock again. Thor, I think Thor talked about this, is it pronounced Viliami Fehoko from San Jose State? He's intrigued by. Mm-hmm. There are some edge rushers here. Clemson. Let's just fly through this. We'll take an edge rusher from San Jose State.
Okay.
Veto any of these out loud if you guys are.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we're back on the clock here. There's some running backs of the future. This Andre Ishivis, the speedster from Princeton that Thor loves. Kai Blue Kelly is a cornerback from Stanford that pops up on a regular basis. And we need a quarterback at some point. We're saying goodbye to Kirk. Aiden O'Connell is sitting here. Let's look at which quarterback.
Yeah, I'm signing. If Kirk is gone, I'm going to. If I'm saying goodbye to Kirk, I'm going to sign a veteran. I would not draft another.
You would draft one next year, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or we could take a flyer on this Jake Hayner again that Thor thinks would be a perfect fit in the system.
What positions do we still need help at and depth at? Interior defensive line.
Interior defensive line. You could maybe say running back because
that's true too. Yep.
There's a lot of running backs here. This Rashawn Johnson, Sean Tucker.
It's round 4, so
let's go interior. Let's do Zach Pickens, interior defensive lineman from South Carolina here.
All right.
And then 2 further picks. Let's go halfback. Let's take the Syracuse kid here. And then just want to make sure we're not leaving out any positions here. Edge rusher, young linebacker, quarterback of the future. We're not going to hit all these. So let's just see. Aiden O'Connell. We're going to take a flyer on Aiden O'Connell. I'm making an executive decision. All right. So there it is. That is our exercise. They're giving us an A on the. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that we drafted CJ Stroud. So we get a C.
Stroud, yeah.
We get a C+ on the Aiden O'Connell.
And I'm giving them an F on their first part of the mock. CJ Stroud getting down to 10 would be an act of God.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great.
So, all right. So my brain malfunctioned there because I can't see anything on the screen right now. But CJ Stroud, Jaden Reed, edge rusher from San Jose State, interior defensive line, halfback. And we botched that Aiden O'Connell pick because I'm an idiot. And with that, this is what the starters on defense would look like. Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips. Your other defensive line spot there in the 3-4 base would be like a rotation of Tonga, Wanham, sometimes Daniil Hunter. Kyle Van Noy. Your cornerbacks would be Cam Sutton, and then some combination of Dantzler, Booth, Caleb Evans, and Duke Shelley. And your starting safeties would be Harrison Smith and Lewis Seen. And your other linebacker next to Asamoah would be David Long, the big free agent signing that we made. Okay.
That was a heck of an exercise. That's good.
Your starting offense would be Christian Darrisaw, Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Brian O'Neill, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, one of the Michigan State wide receivers that you've drafted the last couple of years, TJ Hawkinson, Alex Madison.
Awesome.
That's what you'd have. So, woof. Final thoughts from you guys.
Well, once we signed Long, I just took a job with Detroit, so I'll see you guys.
You do need good linebackers in the NFL.
I'll see you guys down the road.
You do realize that.
I do. I want outside linebackers for a 3-4. I want guys that can rush from the edge. I just don't want guys who are slow as molasses inside, and I can replace those guys.
Well, David Long is.
But I took a job with the Lions. I'm out of here.
Well, this exercise has caused Judd to quit the organization.
I'm going with Dan Campbell, my good friend. All right.
Amazing. All right, let us know what you think in the YouTube comment section, and maybe we do this again in a couple weeks just for fun and see where we land on some of this stuff. But that's a wrap on Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.